The battlefield was quiet now, but the air still carried the smell of smoke and burnt metal. Everywhere he looked, Kale, the alien warrior of the Vorn, saw destruction. The ground was scorched, and the remains of ships and vehicles lay broken and twisted. Kale had expected no survivors from this attack. Humans were fragile, short-lived creatures, and he had been told they could not survive what had just happened. Yet, deep down, he felt uneasy. Something about the scene did not feel complete. Kale stepped carefully over shattered metal and twisted steel beams. His senses were sharp, honed over many years of war, and he could feel every vibration in the ground. He expected silence, but faint sounds reached him. A low groan, almost human in its weakness, echoed from beneath a pile of debris. Kale froze. He focused on the sound, his eyes narrowing. Could it be a human? He approached slowly, scanning the ruins. Among the metal fragments, smoke, and broken hulls, he saw movement. A hand pushed up from under a crushed beam. Kale's eyes widened. Humans were not supposed to survive blasts like this, and yet, the human continued to struggle, dragging himself from the wreckage with determination that Kale had never seen before. The human was small compared to Kale's towering form, and his body was battered. Cuts and burns covered his face and arms, and his clothes were torn. One leg moved painfully as he crawled forward. Kale could see the blood and the dirt that coated him. Yet despite this, the human's eyes were clear and focused. He looked up at Kale with a strength that did not belong to someone so fragile. Kale took a step back, in shock. He had never imagined a human could survive this. This can't be. Kale whispered to himself. You're alive? The human looked up fully now. His dark hair stuck to his sweaty face. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths, but his gaze did not waver. He tried to smile, but the pain made it weak. Kale noticed the human's uniform, tattered and burnt. It was the mark of a soldier, but not a trained fighter. Engineers, scientists, and other non-combatants were not supposed to survive these conditions. Yet here he was, alive. My name is Luke Harris, the human said, his voice hoarse but determined. I'm not going to die here. Kale blinked. He had expected fear, begging, pleading. Instead, he heard defiance. Even in pain, the human refused to give up. Kale had faced hundreds of opponents in battle, but he had never seen anything like this. He stepped closer, curious, almost cautious. Why are you still here? Kale asked. His voice was calm, but there was a tension underneath. He had to understand this human strength. Luke tried to stand fully but fell back onto the ground. He groaned and pushed himself up again. I have to reach the others, he said. I promised. His words trailed off as he clenched his fists. Kale tilted his head, noticing the stubborn set of his jaw. There was loyalty here. A human surviving for someone else, not for himself. Kale watched as Luke struggled forward. Every step was painful, every movement difficult, but the human continued. Kale could feel something stirring inside him. Respect, perhaps, or curiosity. The Vorn had always considered humans weak, fleeting creatures. Yet this one was defying every expectation. As Luke moved, Kale followed silently, keeping a distance. The battlefield was dangerous. Fires still burned in places, and unstable wreckage could collapse at any moment. Kale used his strength to clear obstacles when he saw that Luke could not move them alone. Metal beams that blocked the human's path were lifted with ease. Smoke cleared with a wave of his arm. Luke nodded in thanks each time. Too exhausted to speak, they came to the wreck of a small evacuation craft. Its hull was ripped and smoking, twisted at an angle that made it clear it would not fly again. Inside, faint movements suggested someone was trapped. Kale recognized the shape of a human and froze. Another human, alive. Luke groaned and crawled closer. Claire, he whispered. His voice was barely audible over the crackling fires and distant explosions. He struggled to move the debris blocking the craft's entrance. Cale knelt and began lifting large pieces of metal to help. The human inside the craft, a young pilot named Claire Mason, was trapped but breathing. Her eyes fluttered open, and she gasped as she saw Luke. You came back," she whispered. Weakly, Luke managed to smile. "I told you. I'd get you home." His voice cracked from pain and exhaustion. Cale observed silently. Amazed, the human had survived the blast, traveled through a dangerous battlefield, and now risked his life to save another. This was not just courage. It was something deeper. Cale had never understood loyalty like this among humans before. As Cale helped Luke lift Claire, he noticed the sheer determination in the human's movements. Every inch of progress was a victory. He realized that humans were not fragile because of their bodies, they were fragile only in appearance. Their minds, their hearts, and their will could withstand unimaginable odds. The group moved slowly, careful not to draw attention. Cale stayed close, sensing danger around every corner. Enemy patrols could return at any moment. The battlefield was littered with traps and unstable debris. Luke used what strength he had to move quickly but carefully, guiding Claire and relying on Cale's help. Cale marveled at the human's ability to endure. Every groan of pain, every faltering step, only made the human press on more determinedly. "Why do you do this?" Cale asked finally, breaking the silence. Luke looked at him, his face tired, bloodied, but calm. "Because someone has to," he said simply. "Because leaving people behind, that's not who I am." Cale was silent. He had no answer. The Vorn fought for victory, for empire, for honor, but humans fought for each other. He had never understood that. And now, he was beginning to. The group reached a safer part of the battlefield, where the fires were smaller and the smoke less thick. Luke collapsed to his knees, exhaustion overwhelming him. Cale knelt beside him, scanning the surroundings. For the first time, Cale did not feel like a hunter or a warrior. He felt unsure. This human was different. "You survived something no human should survive," Cale said quietly. "How?" Luke coughed and leaned on the alien's strong arm. I don't know," he admitted. "I just couldn't stop. I had to keep going. For Claire. For my friends. I couldn't leave them behind." Cale nodded slowly, understanding dawning. Strength was not only in the body. It was in the mind. The will. The heart. Humans were weak in their bodies, yes, but their courage and loyalty made them dangerous, and something worth respecting. As night fell over the battlefield, Cale stood guard, while Luke and Claire rested. Luke was still injured, but alive. Claire was unconscious, but alive. Cale realized that humans, though fragile, had something in them that even the strongest Vorn could not break. For the first time in his life, Cale felt something like awe. He had seen the limits of human endurance and had found them higher than he ever imagined. This one human, Luke Harris, had defied death itself. Cale made a silent vow. He would not interfere with the humans' survival. He would watch over them, protect them if necessary. For he had seen what humans could do, and he could not ignore it. And as the stars began to shine over the ruined battlefield, Cale understood something he had never known. In the galaxy, humans were not weak. They were strong in ways no one could measure. Strong enough to survive impossible odds and rise from death itself. Luke slept fitfully, but a small smile crossed his face. Claire's breathing was steady now. Cale remained vigilant, but inside, he felt a strange sense of hope. The human spirit, he realized, could never truly be destroyed. For Cale, this was the beginning of something he could not yet name. A respect, perhaps. A curiosity. Or maybe the first understanding that humans, though fragile, could be more powerful than any alien warrior ever imagined. The battlefield was silent, but it was not empty. Luke Harris was alive. And Kale, the alien warrior, had witnessed a miracle, and so, as night deepened and the distant fires burned low, the impossible survivor, the human, lay resting, ready to face whatever came next. Kale stayed close, for he knew the story of this human had only just begun. Luke woke with a start. His body ached in ways he did not know were possible. Every muscle burned, and his chest felt heavy. He opened his eyes slowly and saw the alien warrior, Kale, standing silently nearby. The stars above the battlefield twinkled faintly, and the night was cold. Luke shivered, not from the temperature, but from exhaustion. He realized he had to keep moving. Claire was still unconscious, and they were not safe yet. Kale watched him quietly. He had expected humans to be fragile, weak, and easily broken. Yet here was Luke, hurt, bloodied, but already thinking about moving forward. The determination in the human was remarkable. Kale felt a strange sense of respect, one he had never given to any other creature. Luke struggled to sit up. "We have to go," he said, his voice rough. "We can't stay here. It's not safe." Kale nodded. "The battlefield is not stable. There may be more patrols nearby. We need to move carefully." Luke looked at Claire. "She's alive," he said, relief in his voice. "That's all that matters. I need to get her to safety." Kale helped Luke to his feet. The human's injuries slowed him, but he refused to stop. Every step was painful. Yet he pressed forward. Kale followed, silently clearing paths and removing dangerous obstacles. He watched Luke with a mixture of fascination and confusion. Why did this human keep going when everything in his body begged him to rest? As they moved through the ruined landscape, Kale noticed signs of recent enemy activity. Cratered ground, spent energy blasts, and scorched earth showed that patrols could return at any moment. He stayed close to Luke, protecting him from falling debris and hidden dangers. Luke leaned heavily on Kale when his legs could no longer support him. The alien warrior marveled at the human's persistence. Luke spoke quietly as they moved. "I was sure I was going to die back there. I thought maybe it was the end. But I couldn't stop thinking about Claire. She depended on me." Kale remained silent. He did not understand humans fully, but he began to see a pattern. Humans were not strong in the way the Vorn were. They did not have heavy armor or natural weapons. Their strength came from something deeper. Their loyalty, courage, and willpower drove them forward, even when death seemed certain. Finally, they reached a section of the battlefield where the wreckage of an old building offered some cover. Luke lowered Claire gently to the ground. He examined her injuries carefully. She had cuts and bruises, but she was breathing steadily. That was enough for now. Luke slumped against a wall, exhausted, and closed his eyes briefly. Kale crouched nearby, scanning the area. "You risked your life for her," he said quietly. "Why?" Luke opened his eyes, pain and determination in his gaze. "Because someone has to," he replied. "If I don't, who will? People can't just leave each other behind. That's not how humans survive." Kale tilted his head. He had fought many battles and seen many creatures die for reasons he did not understand. Humans seemed different. Their strength came from caring about others, not from power or skill. Kale realized he had underestimated them. They stayed in the ruined building for a while, resting and hiding. The night was quiet, except for distant fires and the occasional crack of unstable metal. Luke patched his own wounds as best he could. Kale watched silently, impressed by the human's ability to endure pain. After some time, Luke turned to Kale. "We need to move before more patrols come," he said. His voice was firm, despite exhaustion. "Claire can't wait. She needs help. And I need to get her home." Kale agreed. "There is a network of caves nearby. It will keep you hidden. I can help you get there." Luke nodded, his jaw set. "Thank you, Kale." They began moving again, carefully navigating the rocky terrain. Luke used every ounce of strength he had, leaning on Cale when necessary. Claire remained unconscious, but she was breathing steadily. Cale continued to clear obstacles, lifting heavy rocks and moving debris out of their path. He noticed that the human never complained, never begged, never gave up. Every step was a victory, even if it was small. Along the way, Luke spoke quietly, telling Cale about humans, their struggles, and their determination to protect each other. Cale listened, absorbing every word. He began to understand that humans were fragile in appearance, but their courage and willpower were unmatched. Luke's actions were proof of something he had never seen in his own people: a refusal to give up, no matter the odds. As dawn approached, the group reached the entrance of the caves. It was dark inside, but it offered safety from enemy patrols. Luke carefully carried Claire, and Cale guided them inside. Once inside, they found a small area where they could rest. Luke lowered Claire gently to the ground and checked her injuries again. "She'll be okay for now," he said quietly. "We just need to stay hidden until she wakes up." Cale watched him, amazed. The human's determination was extraordinary. Even when he should have been broken, he kept moving, kept caring, and kept fighting. Cale realized that humans were more than their bodies. Their minds, their hearts, and their spirits made them stronger than any alien warrior could imagine. Luke slumped against a rock, closing his eyes briefly. Cale noticed how small and vulnerable he looked. Yet there was something powerful in the way he rested. It was not weakness, it was trust. Luke trusted Cale to protect them, and Cale felt a responsibility he had never experienced before. Hours passed. Claire began to stir, her eyes fluttering open. She saw Luke first and tried to speak, but her voice was weak. Luke smiled gently. "It's okay. You're safe now," he said. His hand brushed her hair from her face. Cale stood nearby, silent, observing. Claire looked at Cale, fear and curiosity mixed in her eyes. Who are you?" she asked. Cale stepped forward slowly. "I am Cale," he said. "I will not harm you. Your friend is safe." Claire looked at Luke, then back at Cale. She nodded slowly, understanding that they were no longer alone. Luke smiled weakly at her and said, "See? I told you I'd get you out of there." Cale felt something unfamiliar in his chest. He had fought countless battles and faced many enemies, but he had never felt respect like this before. The humans were not only surviving, they were inspiring. Luke's courage and loyalty were teaching him something new about life, about strength, about the human spirit. As the sun rose, the cave filled with soft light. Luke checked their surroundings again, making sure they were safe. Claire was beginning to regain strength, and Cale continued to watch, silent but attentive. The human's will to survive and protect others was evident in every movement, every decision. Cale realized that this was only the beginning. Luke had survived impossible odds, and his determination had saved another human. This small act of loyalty and courage was more than any battle Cale had fought. It was proof that humans, though fragile, could endure and achieve greatness through their spirit. Luke finally spoke again, looking at Cale with determination in his eyes. "We can't stay here forever. I need to get Claire to safety, and then I need to make sure no one else gets hurt." Cale nodded. "Then we move. I will help you." The human rose slowly, leaning on Cale when his strength failed him. Claire followed, still weak, but trusting Luke completely. Cale guided them through the caves, watching them carefully. He knew that danger could return at any moment, but he also knew that he had never met a creature like Luke before. Every step they took was a lesson in endurance, courage, and loyalty. Luke's body was battered, but his spirit was unbroken. Cale felt something shift inside him. He understood now that strength was not only in the body, it was in the heart, the mind, and the willingness to fight for others. By the time they reached a more secure area within the cave system, Cale was certain of one thing: humans were extraordinary. Luke had survived what no one thought possible, and he had done so to protect someone else. Kale realized that he could no longer see humans as weak. They were strong in ways the Vorn could never fully understand. Luke sat down, exhausted, but with a small smile. Claire rested beside him, still recovering. Kale remained on guard. But inside, he felt admiration. He had seen the limits of human endurance and found them higher than he had ever imagined. For the first time, Kale understood that humans, though fragile in appearance, were capable of incredible strength, courage, and loyalty. He knew that Luke's actions would be remembered, not just by humans, but by anyone who witnessed such determination. As the cave grew quiet, the human rested, ready to face whatever came next. Kale stayed close, silently guarding them. He had seen the impossible, and he had learned to respect it. Luke Harris, the human, had survived against all odds, and his journey was only beginning. The cave was quiet, but not for long. Luke rested against a rock, still exhausted from the battlefield, while Claire slowly regained consciousness. Her breathing became steadier, and she looked at Luke with gratitude in her eyes. He smiled weakly, knowing that she was alive and safe, at least for now. Kale stood nearby, keeping watch. The alien warrior had never seen humans like this before, fragile in body, yet strong in spirit and courage. Luke finally spoke. "We need to move further inside," he said. "This place is safe for now, but it won't stay quiet forever." He helped Claire to her feet, supporting her with his injured arm. Kale followed silently, noticing the determination in Luke's eyes. Even though he was hurt, the human refused to give up. They moved deeper into the cave network. The walls were rough and jagged, but they provided protection from patrols or anyone searching the battlefield. Luke led the way carefully, stepping over rocks and avoiding loose debris. Kale observed every movement, impressed by the human's awareness. Luke's mind worked even under exhaustion. He was thinking about safety, routes, and how to protect Claire. After a short walk, they reached a larger chamber. Stalactites hung from the ceiling, and a small stream ran along the floor. Luke knelt beside the water and helped Claire drink. He took a sip himself, careful not to drink too fast. Kale watched silently, amazed at the small, simple acts that humans took for survival. They seemed fragile, but every choice showed intelligence and strength. "You never stop, do you?" Kale asked quietly. "Even when your body is broken, you keep moving." Luke looked at him and shrugged. "I don't have a choice. If I stop, people could die. If I stop, someone else might not make it. That's not how humans work. We keep going, no matter what." Kale studied him closely. He had fought many battles, killed many enemies, and survived countless fights. But he had never seen a creature like this human, whose strength was not in muscles or weapons, but in heart and will. Kale began to understand that humans were different from any species he had ever known. Hours passed. Luke tended to Claire's wounds as best as he could. He wrapped torn cloth around her cuts and helped her move when she felt weak. Kale observed quietly, noticing how Luke never complained about his own injuries. Even with burns and bruises, he put others first. The alien warrior felt something he could not name: respect, perhaps, or admiration. "You are remarkable," Kale said finally. "Most creatures would have given up by now. You continue despite pain, despite weakness." Luke looked at him, tired but determined. "I don't continue for me," he said simply. "I continue for others, for friends, for people who depend on me. Humans. We survive together. Not alone." Kale realized that this was a lesson he could not ignore. The Vorn fought for strength, honor, and victory. Humans fought for loyalty, protection, and love. It was a completely different kind of power, one that Kale had never understood. The cave system was long and winding. Luke led them through narrow tunnels and hidden passages. Occasionally, they had to crawl or step carefully over uneven rocks. Claire leaned on Luke for support, trusting him completely. Kale stayed alert, listening for any signs of enemy patrols. So far, they had not been followed. But danger could return at any moment. As they moved, Luke spoke quietly about his life before the battlefield. He told KL about his family, his friends, and his dreams. He spoke about Claire, and how he promised to protect her no matter what. Fascinated by the humans' words. Humans were fragile, yes, but their dedication to others made them formidable in ways Kale had never imagined. Suddenly, a distant sound echoed through the tunnels. Kale's ears picked it up first. A low, mechanical hum, like patrol drones searching for survivors. Luke froze. Listening carefully, he motioned for Claire to stay close. Kale moved in front of them, ready to defend. "We need to hide," Luke whispered. Quickly, they found a small crevice in the rock wall, just large enough for the three of them. Luke helped Claire inside, and they crouched silently. Kale positioned himself at the entrance, his body blocking the view. The patrol drones passed by, scanning the cave. Kale remained completely still, and Luke's quick thinking kept them safe. Once the drones moved on, they continued their journey, deeper into the cave system. By midday, they reached a wider chamber. Sunlight from an opening far above lit the space, giving them a small sense of comfort. Luke helped Claire sit on a flat rock, and they rested briefly. Kale stood nearby, still keeping watch, but he felt a strange connection to these humans. He had never felt protective of another species before. Yet here he was, ready to defend them without question. Luke looked at Kale. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I don't know if we would have made it this far without you." Kale shook his head. "You survived because of your strength and your will. I only guided you. The credit is yours." Luke smiled faintly. "Strength? I'm tired, hurt, and weak. If anyone has strength, it's Claire. She survived too. Even after everything." Claire smiled weakly, reaching for Luke's hand. "We survive because of each other," she said. "That's the way humans work." KL nodded slowly. He began to understand the truth in her words. Humans relied on each other, and that made them stronger than their physical bodies suggested. A human could endure pain, survive impossible odds, and protect others, all because of their loyalty and determination. As they rested, Luke checked the map he had memorized before the battle. He had studied the cave system carefully and knew the safest route to exit near the edge of the enemy's territory. KL observed silently, impressed by the humans' planning and foresight. Despite exhaustion, Luke was thinking ahead, protecting Claire, and ensuring they would survive. After a short break, they moved again. Luke took the lead, carefully navigating the tunnels. Claire followed, leaning on him when she became tired. Kale stayed behind them, his senses alert for any danger. Every movement showed the humans' courage and determination. Kale had never seen anything like it. At one point, they reached a section where a collapsed tunnel blocked their path. Rocks and debris made it impossible to pass normally. Luke looked around and saw a narrow crack along the side of the cave wall. It was tight, but they could squeeze through. "We can make it," Luke said, determination in his voice. "Hold on, Claire." Kale helped them navigate the tight passage. Luke led, pushing rocks aside and supporting Claire. Kale followed closely, making sure nothing fell on them. After several tense minutes, they emerged into a larger tunnel. Luke breathed heavily but smiled faintly. Claire looked at him with gratitude. Kale remained silent, impressed again by the human's endurance. Finally, after hours of moving through the cave, they reached a chamber with a small underground river. The sound of flowing water was soothing, and they paused to rest. Luke helped Claire drink and cool her wounds. He did the same for himself, Kale observed, noticing how the human continued to care for others despite his exhaustion. "You never stop thinking about others," Kale said quietly. "Even when you are hurt, you focus on them." Luke smiled faintly. "That's what keeps us alive," he said. "Humans survive together, If we only think of ourselves, we fail. If we think of others, we find strength we never knew we had. Kale considered this. In the Vorn, survival was about strength, weapons, and strategy. Humans were different. Their strength came from loyalty, courage, and compassion. Luke's actions proved it. As night fell, they set up a small camp near the river. Claire rested fully now, her breathing calm. Luke tended to a small fire, careful not to attract attention. Kale stood watch, feeling a strange sense of pride. He had witnessed something remarkable. A human surviving impossible odds and protecting others, despite injury, exhaustion, and danger. Luke looked at Kale. "We'll have to leave soon," he said quietly. "The enemy may return, and we need to get Claire to safety. But for now, we rest." Kale nodded. He realized that he had learned more from this human than from any battle he had ever fought. Luke's courage, loyalty, and determination were extraordinary. He had survived the impossible, and his journey was only beginning. As the stars shone through cracks in the cave ceiling, Luke closed his eyes briefly, feeling the exhaustion in his body, but also the hope in his heart. Claire slept beside him. Safe for now, Kale remained vigilant, silently guarding them, knowing that the human spirit was stronger than any force he had ever faced. And in that quiet moment, Kale understood that humans, though fragile in appearance, were capable of incredible strength. Luke Harris had shown him that survival was not just about power or skill, it was about courage, loyalty, and the refusal to give up. The cave was silent, but the story of the human's determination echoed louder than any battlefield noise. Kale watched, knowing that this human would survive whatever came next. Luke had become a symbol of human strength, endurance, and the unbreakable spirit that no enemy could destroy.